All right, thank you everybody for joining us for this session on Agentic AI. I'm Tim Denley. I'm the global CTO of KPMG, and I have with me here Philip. You want to?
So good morning, good afternoon. Philippe Limantour, Chief Technology and Cybersecurity Officer at Microsoft France.
So we're going to start a little bit, talk a little bit around what is Agentic, what are the challenges we're starting to see in the world around Agentic AI, and then we'll go a little bit into some of what we're doing in our respective organizations and also together. So why don't we start with shaping the problem? So tell me a little bit about what you're seeing with Agentic AI and the evolution of tech.
I think we are living in a pivotal moment. What we call frontier enterprises are really leveraging agents to reshape everything we've been knowing for the past decades. Think about the way you are operating, the way you are hiring, attracting, retaining people, executing processes, interfacing with computers. Everything will change with agents, and we started that journey at Microsoft being a customer zero already a couple of years ago.
Yeah, so I think what we're seeing in our business with Agentic AI is an increasing disruption and almost decoupling of our business. So we're a very human-centric business as a professional services firm. And when we start to see what agentic systems can do in the nature of our business, it's really starting to shake almost to the core of what we do. But I see a huge opportunity. And I think that what we're starting to unlock and the potential we're starting to unlock with agentic systems is making us rethink the humanity of our business almost. So some of those core tenets of our trusted AI framework, the idea that humans are always in the loop, but not everything in the system is now humans. And I think that's where some of the challenges are coming when we talk about operationalizing AI as well.
I think there are two layers to unlock. The first one is the human one. As humans, we've been forced for the past decades to learn how to deal with a computer machine, know how to click, double-click, a menu, sub-menu, AZERTY, QWERTY, AZERTY Canadian keyboard. That will disappear. So next we'll have a natural language interface and mostly voice. The vocal interface is just amazing. It's like talking to a human. So removing that first barrier will allow people to have access to jobs that were not being able to have access because they would have been trained for months, to know how to navigate those complex interfaces. And also those interfaces cost a lot to build and maintain on the IT side. If you want to go international, you have to translate your interfaces. In some cases, you have to change the ergonomics depending on the culture. So that first is like, as a human being, when I'm entering a complex environment, I'm looking for a single point of contact, right? So the natural language interface will be your single point of contact. And then if you want to solve a complex problem, if I go to a luxury hotel, I will go to the concierge. I will ask in my vocabulary, my language, complex, last time, silly request, and the concierge will ask experts. So the concierge will ask agents to fulfill my request and solve it and get back to me in my language, in my cultural way of telling the things. That's the first layer of disruption, I would say. Think about when you hire someone, half of the job description is about knowing the information system interfaces and half is about the soft and business skills. Tomorrow it's only business skills. So a lot of opportunity of internal mobility, having access to jobs, hopefully more women in some jobs also, because maybe they are more reluctant to using those complex interfaces, and I can understand it.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point, that the ability of AI to unlock the potential of the humans in the system is an incredible opportunity for most organizations. And I can't think of many organizations that can't gain additional value by the types of agentic systems we're starting to see. And what I'm starting to see even in our business is as teams embrace the technology and the ability to unlock new potential in their environment, what they're actually starting to see is the new value and entirely new ways to do their business. So things that we thought were impossible historically, you need a methodology to do the next step of the process, are actually, these systems can go and almost disintermediate and take out whole steps of the organization. The challenge we have is helping our people to understand how they then act with enough agility to move around those changes.
So there will be a lot of training, and but the natural conversation will ease that journey. But I think everyone should be taught about some manager skills, because tomorrow you're going to manage agents. Everyone should be more aware about the strategy, because then you have also your input in the strategy of the company. You will not just be executants. So we started that journey at the individual level, because you want to put AI in the hand of everyone. That's the first step. So we did that in legal, HR, sales, in all segments. For example, in sales, we found that after 1 year of using those systems, salespeople were closing 20% faster, with 9% more budget in the closing, and much more customer satisfaction. But then the next layer is really about tackling the business processes by themselves.
So let's talk a little bit about some of what you're doing, and then I'll talk a little bit more about what we're doing, because I think it's a really interesting layering of your technology with some of the business skills and some of the business value that we drive from a business perspective. So tell me about what Microsoft is doing in the agentic space.
So the first layer was to deploy that at the individual level. Then we started already 2 years ago to reshape the whole processes and the way we operate in call centers. And that's the very first topic that most of the more matured companies are executing now. So we deploy agents over 35,000 people who are human agents in contact centers. And if you are in the contact center, you used to read scripts. But we equip those people with a bunch of agents having access to all the information about the customer, the telemetry of the systems, the documentation, the case which were solved earlier. And we found that we increased all the metrics in the call center. So human agent satisfaction, which was poor at the beginning, so much more retention, so people staying in the job. Customer satisfaction, because first call resolution, which is the main metric, was really upsided by those agents and human combined. Then upsell and cross-sale, because those agents earlier were, as humans just reading scripts. Now they can advise the customer, okay, you are asking that, but did you have a look at that? Or customers in your segment are also using that, their recommendation systems. And that's amazing how this has transformed for good, I would say. So that's the first main process. And at the same time, it's also about return on investment. And we are saving $500 million a year in call centers, thanks to this, not taking into account the increase of revenue. So that's an amazing transformation and example. And now we are rolling out this for all our processes, removing legacy components step by step as we deploy new agents and tackle the main business processes.
Yeah, so we've seen some really interesting things in our organization. And in KPMG, we have more than 300,000 people globally. And one of the first things we did was roll out Copilot to as many people as possible. I think we're now at something like 80,000 people around the world regularly using Copilot. And what we noticed was some really interesting things about both adoption and the way people use the tools. So we saw the very traditional things. Lots of our work is involved in having meetings and being able to understand what happened in a meeting, take meeting minutes, and use some of the very kind of orthodox Copilot type skills. But what we also started to notice was that there was a large group of people in our organization who took that usage well beyond the basics and started to do things that we would never have initially expected them to do. And what's happening now is someone who's finding a very novel way to almost kind of prompt engineer their way into some very specialized use case. We're taking those things and turning them into agents. And that's then unlocking new capability within our organization. So the notion that the initial investments that we've made in scaling something like Copilot and helping our people to adopt the tools is now expanding beyond that into this agentic ecosystem. And really the challenge that faces us right now is taking those skills and those incredible capabilities that we're starting to compose into agents and making them operate at scale across our whole business. And also enabling those things to be transportable from one part of our business to another part of our business. So as much as we have commonality in our business, if I think about what we do in audit and what we do in tax and the way we serve our clients has lots of commonality, the reality is there is always some subtlety that needs to be adjusted. And fortunately, the nature of agents lets us do that adjustment in real time. So the ability for the systems to actually adapt and adjust because they're non-deterministic is really unlocking a lot of power.
And that's a key point, because every company, being a public or private company, needs to adapt fastly and faster every day, I would say. But until now, we've been locked by something that it's a correlation between the operating model, the processes, the way you are organized, and the information system. You may know that if you want to deploy a new ERP, for example, the ERP vendor will come with a new target operating model saying, if you want to deploy my ERP, you also have to adapt to the way you work, the way you are organized, the way you build processes to copy, mirror, mimic what I've implemented in my ERP system, because if not, you're not getting the value out of it. And the technology part of migrating, to the new ERP system may take, some months. But we know that the transformation of the operating model will take years, and most of those projects, fail or go beyond the cost, the initial cost, which was scheduled. So with agents, we are for the first time being able to decorrelate the processing and the operating model from the information system, because agents can surface the legacy environment. So in our vision, there will be humans and agents collaborating. Agents will mostly go to the data layer, and there will be some pieces of components, of legacy components, but just to process sub-processes, but because sometimes you need to do ABC because of compliance or audit rules, but mostly you want to be able to reorganize those components on the flow as you want to adapt your operating model. So think about now, you can deploy the new ERP system, use components, and there are standards way, because agents know how to talk to you, but they also know, and it's easier for them, how to talk to the information system. It's called MCP. It's a protocol which allows to describe in natural language, this is my ERP system. If you want to know about logistics, you can ask me questions, basically. And the agents will know how to get access to your ERP system. And then you can keep the way you operate today or reorganize it without having to know which system is deployed, without having to train hundreds of people for months about how to use the ERP's interface, because they won't use the ERP interface anymore. And I'm also in charge of cybersecurity, and the cherry on the cake is that today you have to have passwords and logins or whatever access and authorization controls to get access to the 4 or 5 systems you use today. But then tomorrow agents will do that. And we introduced 2 weeks ago agents having what we call an identity in the system, like humans. So agents tomorrow are going to integrate the organizational chart. There will be colleagues as you, and we have technical ways to give what we call just-in-time access. So agents, when they need to write in the CRM, they will have the access of writing the CRM just for the few seconds they need it, and then they won't have the access. So if someone tries to attack the agent, they won't get access to the information system. But today, you have all the people having passwords sometimes beneath the keyboard on the post-it. So that also improving the cybersecurity of the whole system.
Yeah, and I think those are some of the key challenges when organizations are thinking about how they're going to scale in this new world. The notion that agents become components in your human-based systems today, not just having an identity in terms of having a user identity, but also having an identity in the sense of your HR systems and how you manage work within your organization. This is where we start to see this incredible evolution of what we need to do as organizations to be able to manage this change. It means we need to have new ways of thinking about how we establish trust and new ways of thinking about how we maintain and monitor what's happening in our environments while these agents are off doing things. Because by their very nature, they're non-deterministic. We cannot tell what they're going to do when we start to operate with them. And that's both a valuable proposition, but it's also something we need to manage. So it's really important for us to understand exactly what is happening and to understand the lineage of the actions being taken in the system and the interactions between humans and agents as they go and do work in your environment. And fortunately, we're starting to build the types of systems that help us to do this. The agent identity is one. The notion of MCP and A2A and agent protocols that help us to connect between the different agents. The ultimate thing is agents are very malleable in ways that traditional systems are not. Most businesses work in a very flexible nature because humans, by our nature, are very flexible. We have the ability to adapt, to talk, to communicate, to learn new things as we go. And this is the trait that we're starting to learn through agentic systems, that actually they adapt to their environment around them in very natural ways.
So tomorrow we'll have to define mission statements and job descriptions for agents, and you have to share mission statements between humans and between agents, understanding the strengths and weaknesses of each of them. We often talk about biases in large language models, but we forget the 400 plus cognitive biases that humans have, which are fully documented by neuroscientists for decades. So there are weaknesses and strengths, and we need to balance them, and that's why we talk about a co-pilot approach. It's really about combining the strengths and the weaknesses and reducing, mitigating the weaknesses of both. Humans cannot manage the amount of information that we have to deal with. We found that the average increase of performance for humans in managing knowledge is about 4% a year. The increase of capability of knowledge management by AI system for the past 3 years have been 25 times per year. So 4%, 25 times. So we understand that we need to combine both of them. So maybe to end, so a lot of opportunities, unlocking decorrelating the business processes and the operating model, easing the way for everyone. So what's needed now to scale this, and how can we better work together? I think the technology is ready. It's a low-code, no-code approach, highly secure, trusted. But then I think, and that's why we partner, because we need you to know about the customer's strategy, customer's way of doing. And the most challenging part of transforming and scaling out will be change management. That's the human component, which will be the slowest maybe to move.
Yeah, there's no question. And if I think about the programs that we're both running for ourselves and helping our clients with are very much about how we help organizations to understand the change and to effectively execute change within their organization. And that goes through a whole spectrum of different things, from not just the technology and the foundational components, but how you organize yourself, how you align what you're doing with AI into the way that you operate your business and what's valuable for your business. And also how you think about the future of work in an environment where humans and machines will operate in a much more synergistic way than we have in the past. And that requires us to really think differently about what you bring into the equation and how you actually instigate change within your organization and let people learn and experiment in a very natural and kind of organic way.
And also how we will evaluate the educational tracks and in the earlier schools, because the skills that are taught in schools now may not be the right ones. It's also about learning how to, when you go in a company, you learn two things: experience and expertise. expertise is free lunch with agents, but how do you get experience so that you can criticize those agents where they are going the wrong way? And today, it's about making the job for years, but tomorrow agents will do that first level job. So that's a question. I don't have all the answers, but what we see is we are confident enough in humans to be adaptable enough, and that's what we see in Microsoft. People are changing the way they operate. Even the youngest who enter the company were not trained to AI. They are highly adaptable, and I'm very confident that that will be a fantastic journey.
Yeah, I think that there's a huge, almost groundswell of incredible talent that are able to use these tools effectively and to integrate well with the tools. So one of the things that we've seen be very successful in our organization is finding people in your organization who are adaptive and can utilize the technology and empowering them to help the rest of your organization. In our team in the UK, we have a notion of digital ninjas. They're typically quite young people who are very adept at using the tools and who are empowered to go and talk to the most senior partners and sit with them and help them understand how to use the technology. Because the reality is most of your organizations already have the type of people that can understand these tools. It's about how you actually empower them to help you to make that change. So there's a lot to come, and we could talk for hours on the incredible change and the pace at which this is happening. But I actually wanted to give the audience an opportunity to ask us any questions about not just Agentic AI, but how you're scaling. Does anybody have any questions for us? Sure.
It's interesting that you said that you're seeing a different dynamic in organizations right now on how the senior executives and also the technical or individual contributors in the company is operating. Can you explain more some examples of how these dynamics are happening? For example, in SaaS companies, I'm just curious what you are seeing. And so I'm a startup founder in San Francisco, and I'm building something for decision intelligence that's actually trying to connect the C-suite executives and those individual contributors. So I'm curious.
Okay. It's a really good question. So we're seeing a couple of things. One thing that we're starting to see is strong leaders are beginning to adopt the technology for themselves personally. And the challenge that they're seeing is actually in the middle layer of their organization, which is not really a new story. We hear this story year in and year out. But actually, if we can start to bridge between those senior leaders who are adopting the technology and the ground where we're actually starting to see greater adoption levels, it's that middle layer that need the change management that we talked about. Because the thing that I'm starting to see is exactly what we were talking about here, the need for that management layer to manage differently. Because they're not just managing people anymore, they're managing systems and agents. And that evolution is what's starting to shift the middle layer.
I think one key component is the culture of the company. Yeah. In Microsoft, when Satya Nadella came in as a CEO, we totally shifted the culture to what we call growth mindset. So he said we are coming from a know-it-all to a learn-it-all era. And also about social skills will be very important. Curiosity, being able to access any level in the hierarchy to ask questions. So that's part of the culture. That's very important. Then in some companies, what I'm seeing is that there are some executives who are still asking someone to print their emails to review them. So what we did is actually training the executive assistants of the companies using AI to fulfill the exec's request. I want to travel there. I want to be in Vivatech and do 20 meetings in the day. How to empower them to use AI so that the exec sees the power of AI, and so you can use other people to use them as levers, to start changing mindsets on other parts of the company.
Sometimes you just have to force it to. So one of the things that we've found very successful is actually to keep dashboards of who is using the tools and really go and call out those senior executives that, if I think about our top 5 users in the US organization for KPMG, 2 of our board members are in the top 5 of our users of AI tools. And so those are the things we need to celebrate. But we also need to use a bit of shame for the ones who are not, because it's so important in the future.
Yeah, we did that also in our transformation. So gamifying.
Yeah.
So kind of competing, these countries having much more number of people on so we measure daily metrics and monthly usage. And then also we've started to deploy, and that's available in our solution, kind of a marketplace of best practices. So then people can put stars also on that. So people are happy to share, I found a new way to prepare my customer meeting. So that's the way you should ask the agent to do this. So gamifying is also something, of course, as in any change management project, a key component.
Okay, so we probably have time for one more question.
Hello, Dmitry, TechBiz Global. Agentic AI brings a lot of opportunities, but adoption of Agentic AI, especially in cyberspace, is very low. And it brings a lot of threats, right? So from different perspectives. So my question is, what are the major, maybe 2-3 threats that you see in organization from the consulting, from Microsoft perspective, and how you are addressing them?
So yeah, we are. So attackers are using AI to be more efficient, I would say, as we do. So we have a Copilot for security, which are agents to help cyber teams detect attacks. Because when someone enters your company, it takes a mean 1.5 hours to spread in the whole company. And often people or companies discover the attack, weeks or even months after the first attack. So that's the first thing. Then also being able to adapt, recognize patterns. So the agents recognize the patterns and say, okay, the next step of the attacker. So putting in the shoes of the attackers, the agent is trying to do adversarial view. So as an attacker, looking at the actual attacks, my next step would be. And then you can try prepare and stop them, or put a honeypot to attract them in the right place to observe them. So there are a lot, and we published a lot of open source components also. What we call red teaming, and we are fully using agents to do red teaming. So basically having the diverse ways of thinking about the attacks. The most important and will be in disinformation. The power of AI to generate fake videos, fake content. That's the most scary, because people are not trained, and I think it will be even very difficult soon, if not already, to distinguish a fake information from a right one. So analyzing the data that you are going to put in the information system that your agents will, because next attacks I think will be on the information system, on the knowledge, because agents will use that knowledge to fulfill your processes. So if you fake the data, then the agents will slightly act differently. Say, I don't know, the limit for expense is 100 per week, and then you fake the data, you say it's 200, okay? So people start expanding 200 a week, and then you get a 1 billion fine because you are not compliant with the regulation. So that's the most important one. I think the systems by themselves are highly protected. We have a lot of ways to protect the information system on the technology side, but the information side will be the next thing to look at after.
Yeah, I think that change in attack vector and attack velocity is the real change. And being very purposeful in understanding what is correct in your business and what signals are positive signals and what signals are negative signals. So there's nothing necessarily new about that, but understanding and being able to monitor in real time is where we can actually use the technology to help us. But first you have to be able to build that baseline of what those signals are.
And thanks to agents, KPMG audit people will be able to audit everything at any time.
That's right.
Instead of doing sparse checks as we do today. So there will be also a way to use agents to be more conscious of what's happening and what's changing and identifying things, maybe putting things aside until you analyze them, because you'll detect in real time, so you will have some days or hours or weeks to check for the change.
Exactly. Thank you. It's a very good question. Okay, so we're out of time. Thank you for joining us for the keynote. We'll be around if you want to ask us any questions. And thank you for joining us. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.